Yes, it's another Monday. It's the June 9th, 2014. Couple old pals are in the studio this morning. One on the chair, one on the couch. Rod Verkey, Joe Sposato join the dog for another edition of Weber This Week. Lots of things to talk about here on a Monday, as yet again we have another nice week scheduled weather-wise. We got a little showers last night, which were desperately needed for my wife's herbs and her plants that she has outside the apartment. So good morning, everybody. It's the dog with you. Another edition of our show. We hope that you had a great weekend. And again, a couple of my old friends that dig sports, are into sports, have played sports all their lives, and have followed sports all their lives. To my far right, Mr. Rod Verkey. Rod, thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Always a pleasure.
Joe Sposato, him and me go back a long, long time when he took advantage and gave me the best facilities at the gymnasium for the outstanding basketball seasons that you had, Joe. And I remember giving us nothing but first-class accommodations, and it's good to have you in as well.
Thanks for having us.
Joe, Rod, let's talk. We got lots to talk about. These guys have followed the world of sports for a zillion years, and opinions, I'm sure they will share them with us this morning. As we kick around a lot of topics, the show's only 30 minutes long. We probably could sit here and talk for hours. Let's talk NBA, Joe. You being a former basketball coach, whether you love LeBron James or hate him, the Spurs take a 1-0 lead, had a chance to make it 2-0 last night. Hold on. Pound for pound, in my opinion, LeBron James could be, I know there's still time in his history to play, the best NBA player ever to put on a jersey. Brings it home, and the Heat go back to Miami 1-1. Your opinion of that series? Looks like the Heat.
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a hotly contested series, and it's going to be a great series. You've got two good teams. You've got really good players on both teams. LeBron James. You have to remember, this kid didn't play college basketball. He is as mature a leader as you can find for being so young, and I think if there's anything that can overcome him, it's the organization of the San Antonio Spurs, because that's like a throwback to the old Celtic dynasties in the 60s, and I think it'll be a great series. I still give an edge to Miami, but we'll see.
Well, Rod, of course, your family needs no introduction to the game of basketball at the highest level. You've had the chance in your lifetime, like you and me are close to the same ages, is watching NBA players perform. Of course, everybody talks about Michael Jordan. Certainly not throwing dirt his way, one of the most phenomenal players ever to play the game. I'm still convinced, though, if this kid, LeBron, continues to play for a bunch more years, puts the numbers up, does what he does on hardwood, it's hard to dismiss it. He may be the greatest ever, pound for pound, if you give him more years.
Well, it's still a little early.
I understand.
And to be on that Mount Rushmore of elite basketball players, which he kind of self-anointed himself.
Exactly.
I think what he took kind of abrasions to other people is when he left some people off of that Mount Rushmore that have already gone through their seasons, won championships, and have the statistics behind them. So until he reaches that point, I don't think you can pat yourself on the back quite that much. And he is one of the best.
Oh, my God. Just watching him, it's amazing. And, Joe, you probably picked up on it last night. As you watched the game, I had a chance to watch most of it. When he gets into paint, he's almost unstoppable. I mean, he's got moves down there that are just amazing.
Well,
and he's so strong, you know.
All of those things.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that's happened in the NBA also is you tend not to have the kind of defense that you used to have 20 and 30 years ago. And I think when a guy goes to the hole, it's pretty easy for them to score two. You almost, sometimes that game, I wonder about the teams that are defending the three and giving you the two. So, but he is top notch, and there's no question about that. But the NBA is, to be honest with you, is not on one of my high priority lists of things that I follow.
Sure.
But they certainly, when it comes down to teams like this, you do enjoy watching them. And I would have to say I also enjoy watching Oklahoma City when they're on.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Joe Sposato and Rod Verkey join us. Lots of topics to talk about. But let's talk, Joe, first off, you had a big celebration a few weeks ago, Memorial Day weekend, another induction ceremony of the Waterloo Sports Hall of Fame. If you would be so kind, give us a quick snapshot of who got inducted and a couple quick comments about him. And I'm sure Verk would comment as well, because he probably certainly knows the athletes that got inducted.
Well, we had two fine women athletes, Christina French and Corinne Young. Both had played 3 sports for us, and both Christina went on to play college softball at UMBC, and Corinne had a great basketball career at St. John Fisher, and they were from the class of 2000 and 2001. And then we put one of our coaches in, Mickey Donnelly, who is in his 40th year of teaching.
Wow.
And he was our cross-country coach, and he won over 14 titles, and we had him come in, and then we inducted our second team. We're a little we're just getting into this. We were one of the first Hall of Fames, but I believe we're the last one to put teams in. And this was the second team that we've put in the last 2 inductions, the 1972 baseball team. And with all the baseball championships that Waterloo has won in all those years, the thing that distinguished them was the fact that they had an undefeated season. And believe it or not, that was the only undefeated baseball team Waterloo had. It was in they won 18. They were 18-0 and won the Class A title then. And so I had a huge crowd. We sold Abigail's out,
nice.
Which is about the average that we kind of want in there. And
sure.
It went very well. People had a very good time.
Now, you mentioned about you were coming up short relative to bringing in teams. Was there a theory behind the team's aspect of not bringing them in early on as the Hall of Fame began in Waterloo?
Several of us didn't want to breach that. We didn't want to get into that.
Okay.
And then we watched as other people did it, and it seemed to work fine. And we took a look at what their criteria was. It's such a fine line. You have to really ask yourself a question. Is the 12-8 Section 5 championship team better than the 22-1 team that lost in the semifinals? And we had to answer the question, yes. The more things you won as a team as you go on, that's going to put you in a better chance to get your team into the Hall of Fame. And to give you an example, we put the 8-0 62 football team when Tommy Coughlin was a junior, and because they were undefeated, and we just did another undefeated team. And there are teams sitting out there with 1 loss that were ranked below them for that reason. And
gotcha.
It's not right or wrong, but we had to have some kind of criteria, and it took us a while to get there. It took me a while to get there, I guess. I have to be honest. So.
Well, my friend Rod, of course, I know you sent out your congratulatory messages to everybody who got inducted into Waterloo, because you certainly, you and your committee are getting ready to vote on this year's class at the Miners Academy. So I'm sure you are excited about what Joe has done at Waterloo, and you look forward to another spectacular night for Miners, which is in October.
Yeah, this will be our 5th this year, and we're very pleased that the first 4 have gone very well, much better than anticipated. Our following has been good, and as Joe said, though, whenever you get into these areas of Hall of Fames and teams, and it's difficult, and you have to have a system that you're going to put in and justify what you do. And no matter what you do, some people will always
question it.
Right. And but you have to go forward from that. You can't not do things because you might get a little criticism for it. But
let me ask you, Joe. That's a good point. After you make your announcements of who's getting in, do you get some people come up to you and say, "Why not this person? Why not this person? Why not this person?"
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And the first you want that, because at least you know they're interested.
Yes, it's exactly
okay?
right.
And then the next thing, and more importantly, we always say, well, we go by nominations too.
Okay.
And if you feel that strongly,
where's your nomination, right?
Please put in a nomination for that. Now, once in a while you get them, but more often than not, they just wanted to sound off. But
sure.
That's the correct way to do it. We have an open nomination, and we do the research, and some of that research takes an awful lot of time. I've been to the Hobart Library and the Finger Lakes Time microfilm. Don Moretti did a yeoman's job with that for years for us, and Jimmy Mariano. And, we really get into it and try to do the best job we can.
Verk, same with you, obviously. You and the committee must get people to come up to you on the street when you make your announcement of who's getting inducted. What happened to this person? Why isn't this person? Have you ignored this person? And you made a good comment to me, which I never knew, when we first talked about the Hall of Fame this few years ago, and maybe Joe can chime in, you take in account not only what they did at the school level, high school level, if they went on to college and did something, you put that into the mix as well. I always believed, in my feeble mind, that it was a high school Hall of Fame credential only, but you made a comment to me, no, dog, we take into account if they did something relatively spectacular at the college level.
Correct.
Okay,
And we do get some, we get quite a bit of talk about that, too.
I'm just curious, yeah.
If you were going to limit that to just high school, I think you would be hard-pressed to separate the best of the best.
Okay.
And it's very difficult to say, like in the 50s,
Right.
Minders went 9 years in a row undefeated in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't compare those teams to other teams in different decades. The two football teams that we put in the Hall of Fame were undefeated, untied, and unscored upon. Can't get any better than that.
No, you can't.
That was the 38 and the 46 team. And probably any one of those 50s teams could be in there, but we've decided it's not going to be a football or a basketball Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. You have to give the best of each sport. Mm-hmm. This year is interesting. We went to baseball. So as Joe knows, you got to research all those teams and do everything. And we're doing something a little different this year. We're putting in 3 baseball teams. Mm. So as we got our information, we found out that the 52 team was the first team ever for Minders to win a sectional. Mm. So that is pretty good.
Noteworthy, yes.
The 53 team won the sectionals also, and they were undefeated, which is the only undefeated baseball team that Minders has ever had. Mm. And the 54 team also won the sectionals. So it became the first three-peat ever in Minders Academy history. So we're going to put all 3 of those teams in. Mm. And between those 3 years, there's only 25 different players. So you can see there was an overlap there of the talent that went on. So you couldn't pick between one of those 3. And another consideration that we have also is 52, 53, 54. You know how old we are.
Yeah, we do.
Well, these guys are a little older.
No, okay.
And we wanted to honor them while we still can get them up on the stage and do it.
Joe Sposato and Rod Verkey are in the house this morning. Joe's on the chair and Rod's on the couch. This is Weber This Week. It's June the 9th, 2014. What about this McCants guy from North Carolina? We want to delve into that with Rod and Joe. Is that sour grapes trying to sell some books? Roy Williams says it never happened. I don't know. I saw transcripts that said AAAA on African American Studies and DDF on the other ones. We'll get to Joe and Rod to get their opinions on that. As you continue to join Weber This Week, let's hear from the great sponsors that make this show possible. Cedar Lake National Bank. Bill Ryan and his team for all of your banking needs. Offices in Union Springs and Aurora. A fine sponsor of this show for over 30 years. DA Liquor, Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her great team will find that right spirit for you every time. Tell Amy the dog sent you. Steve Wadhams, Wadhams Enterprises, your employer of choice. Proud supporter of this show and local athletics. Bob and Leslie Ullman, owners of the Ullman Theater in Lyons, as well as the Newark Pilots, a minor league baseball team with a major league ballpark. Lizard's Tailgater Lounge, Waterloo. Best mott sticks around, where you can enjoy a drink and some laughs. SenecaFallsCountryClub.com. Awesome 18-hole layout, offering a 12-month payment plan. Home of the toughest par 4 in central New York. Wilson Press, WPress.com. Seneca Falls, Rich Rickey, my good friend, and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. Rich Rickey, Wilson Press, a fine sponsor of Weber This Week. Well, welcome back, everybody. It's a dog with you on a Monday, June the 9th. Another good week forecast-wise for weather, so if you're into golf or boating, camping, this is a good week to do that. We've had a nice stretch of weather, haven't we? A couple of things to get to before we get to the McCants story. We all know about Steve Coburn, the part owner of California Chrome. Big news, of course, across the nation. California Chrome winning the Derby, winning the Preakness, and going for the Triple Crown, which has only happened 11 times in the history of the Triple Crown, trying to be the 12th horse to do this. Most people expected him to win. He had that propeller, the propulsion going down the stretch with a great kick which he's shown in the Derby and the Preakness. And there was this other horse that hadn't run in the Derby and the Preakness, and he was fresh, and he wins it. Long shot, Commissioner comes in second. Long story, California Chrome finishes in a dead heat with Boston Strong, Wicked Strong for fourth place, third and fourth place. So bottom line, Coburn, the part owner at the end of it, who was really a cool guy, his co-partner, co-owner, more of a technical guy, not looking for the PR side of it. Coburn, however, with the cowboy hat, was going all over his hometown to the local banks. He was buying people breakfast at the Pancake House, and he was the people's owner. Everybody was enthused about this guy, and everybody loved this guy. And everybody was pulling for California Chrome to do it. Hadn't happened since 1976. By the way, if you're keeping track, 76, 30, was it 78? 78, 36 years. And, of course, the dog remembers that well because I was 55, 65, 33 years old at that point. I was looking forward to it. I even bet on a nag. I was pulling for Chrome. We watch it, me and Mary. And, Verk, your opinion of how it turned out at the end? Sour grapes. Coburn goes ballistic in the national media. He's not backing down. He's calling the owner of the winner there a coward's way of winning. Really off base because, as you know, Verk, and I know Joe may not follow horse racing like I do, it's never been changed. It's been that way from day one. They don't mandate you to run in these races. So I guess I was surprised to see how he just lashed out at the media and all these other owners that he claims should run all three. It's not part of it.
I got two thoughts on this whole thing. Number one is it doesn't matter what clothes you wear.
Yeah, that's right.
You wear the same hat, the same tie, the same clothes.
Yeah.
Superstitions don't win things for you.
Bingo.
Number two, when you win or you lose, I think you have to do it
Yeah.
with some decorum.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's easy to be a good guy when you win and stuff, and it's very tough to be, I guess, gallant when you lose, but you have to do it. Because now here's a guy that I kind of was drawn to, kind of a charismatic guy, and the whole story about a $10,000 horse.
Yeah.
And now, after the race is done, you don't like the rules of the race. Well, you know those ahead of time, and you have to do it. And the other people, they have a business in their horse. They did what they thought was best for their horse, and it worked out well for them. But
Joe, a little surprised with you as far as watching that unfold like it did?
No owner in professional anything surprises me with their inability to not know what the heck they're talking about.
I can't get over that.
And just because you own something doesn't mean that you are educated in the sport or have the historical background in the sport. You may, but you may not. And you've got what people call them dynamic owners. I call them ESPN and interview owners in just about every sport you can imagine.
No, you're right.
And they're on the air all the time. The best thing they could do is drop the story.
I must admit, and again, I would never be accused of being very smart, but I sat around thinking after he lashed out at calling this owner and the trainer of the winner a coward's way of doing it. I'm thinking, now let me get this right. Coburn and his partner brought DAP, Dumbass Partners. Ironically, that's the name. Ironically. They ran the Derby. They win the Derby. Now, Verk, 2 weeks later, they head to Baltimore, Maryland for the Preakness. Now, as you're unloading the horse and putting your horse in the barn, which you get a special barn because you won the Derby, and all these other horses are in these barns. Now, don't you think, Verk, that he would have noticed that all the horses that were in the Derby aren't at the Preakness? I mean, wouldn't you think so? You've been there 2 weeks, right? Getting ready for the race. I mean, he should have known that the Preakness didn't have 19 horses. So it's obvious to me that, according to his theory, if Jim's horse qualifies for the Derby, Jim's horse must run in the Derby, Preakness, and Belmont. No excuses. But wait a minute. He won the Derby, goes to Baltimore for the second leg. There wasn't that many horses, so I was just shocked just unbelievably shocked at his attitude. And today on Good Morning America, he's still playing the hard-ass route, and I just don't know where he's going with that. I think it's turning off a lot of people in the country who pulled for him. And, Verk, to your point, I was one of them.
Sure.
My wife says, what a baby, what a crybaby. You know, by the way, I bet on, me and Mary always bet on the Triple Crown. 2-2-2, 2 to win, 2 to place, 2 to show. I bet on Johnny Velasquez, Run, Curlin, Run. Jimmy, Joe, Rod, he finished 87 lengths behind the winner. I swear to God, he's still running in Staten Island right now.
Have a good day.
Joe, 87 behind. Oh, that was a wasted $6 a piece. Thanks for coming in. Okay, let's get to the McCant story, Joe. You being an educator, certainly an outstanding coach, and many other things in your career at Waterloo. All of a sudden, I see this McCant's on outside the Lyons the other day, and he's alleging, with transcripts to show, which the ESPN always has transcripts, African American studies, some courses he was getting AAA, and they showed the A's, and then they showed the F and the D on these other courses, which he didn't do very well at. His line was that Mr. Williams, the coach, knew it. That was a national championship year, as you know, with North Carolina. And no big deal. At the end of the semester, you had to turn in a paper, and you would all jump in a car and go to the tutor, and the tutor would do the paper and hand it to you, and you could turn it in. What'd you think of it? I know he's trying to sell a book. To your point, any validity to his arguments, or is there any thought process that you had with this?
You know, maybe I've reached a point in my life where
Nothing surprising.
this is going to happen at some university at some time. 2 or 3 times a year for the rest of my life.
All right.
Okay.
I agree.
So again, one of those things where it was to me,
Right.
oh really?
Really?
And you know, now North Carolina unfortunately had a little problem with the football team.
Yeah, right.
So they might have a little more scrutiny go in there. And there was a 60-minute or there was an anthology about this. 2-3 months ago in the winter about institutions that were funneling you into majors that were really bogus type majors and were making sure that you were doing well at those courses. I'm sure it happens. And the NCAA, if they maybe stopped worrying about spending money for a kid to get a piece of pizza, maybe they could do a better job of doing that. But in our lifetime, Harold, I don't know how much is going to change. And that's not a negative point of view. That's just, I guess, as you get older, you just accept that some of these things are going to happen. And when you do, you get whacked and you get penalized.
Verkey, your comments. You certainly were an outstanding athlete. Talk a little bit about McCann. I know you mentioned before we went on the air he's selling a book. I guess what enthralled me about watching the piece was there was transcripts, there were actual documents from the university that showed these grades. William says no, it didn't happen. Where do you come down on?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't want anybody showing any of my transcripts anywhere. But
I wasn't going to get into that.
and in this guy's case also, I don't see what the point is that he wants to show what to the people.
Right.
He went there, and things happen at different universities, and you play. And I think this university did very well by this guy, and now it's almost like he's slapping them in the face with the success that he's had to make some money. So to me, that's a definite breach of loyalty to that school. I think you have to have loyalty to whatever you do with the guys you play with, the coaches you play for. I think they owe them a little something other than trying to sell a book.
Very well said.
And I'm not buying the book.
Either am I.
Let me ask you guys a question. As former administrators, athletic directors, and when I went to Syracuse in the early 90s, and I took a class called College Learning Strategies. I think I took it twice because it helped my GPA. But that class was full of, there was 6 lacrosse players, 10 football players, 3 or 4 basketball players. And so that class was clearly designed to help students or athletes learn how to have success in the classroom, but also to help their GPA. I mean, everybody in the class got an A. There's also African American studies classes at Syracuse, but they were legitimate classes. They weren't, easy classes. But my question to you is, why can't some of these schools create programs for athletes, high-level athletes, that will either teach them to manage money or more to become a coach or in a particular sport maybe after they're done playing? So, a major that would, help them in what they're really going to do when they graduate, which is be involved in like if you're a basketball player, you're going to play in Israel, or you're going to play in the NBA, or you're going to play, overseas, or maybe you're going to go back to your hometown and coach. Is it wrong to think that colleges could put together majors in those disciplines?
Well, I don't know about majors, but they do cover a lot of stuff that you can take as far as the minors go. It depends on what you're going to college for. If you're a Tim Tebow, and this guy had some intelligence, and I think he really was there for a different reason, and then things happen that you become a professional player. And the thought process that we had before, I always used to hate it when a guy went early. Yeah. I just thought that was a bad thing for the university, a bad thing for the kid. But now they make so much money going after your freshman year, like Ennis did. I wouldn't want him to stay in college for 4 years. He's going to make much more money doing what he's doing than going back and getting a degree. So I think they do have different curriculums that they can funnel you into, but you still have to go as a major. And that has to be on your credentials, and you got to be studying in that area, and it depends upon your major how tough it's going to be.
Joe?
I'm recruiting a kid, and I'm a Division I basketball program. Now, maybe I'm getting a primetime player. My primetime player, it really doesn't matter what he's going to take that first year, because he ain't going to be there that second year. Maybe I've got two other people that might be there 2 years. They're going to kick around. They're going to leave. I like to look at the fact that colleges got themselves in the game long ago to be the equivalent of baseball farm clubs. So Division I basketball became a farm club for the NBA. Division I football sorta has become a farm club for the NFL. When you were a baseball player and you were 18 or 19 years old 30 years ago, you didn't think about college. You signed a pro contract. You went to some Class A team in Iowa City, and you moved yourself up.
Yeah.
The basketball player goes to college.
Right.
So now you, as a university, have all these people coming to you who are there to major in basketball and football.
Right.
Now, what are you going to do with them? Granted, you could do some of the things that Jimmy's talking about, but sooner or later, their goal is to get out.
Exactly.
And make a living doing what they came there for. It's a risky thing, because if you get hurt and you can't play anymore, you're in trouble. But that's where it's at. And it doesn't, you could think about all the other things you could do. That's where it's at, and I don't know right now what's going to change it.
Well, look we're almost out of time, but I won't leave the airways without getting your comment on the fumbling, bumbling, stumbling New York Yankee $240 million payroll. Now, I realize it's June the 9th. There's no need to panic yet in the Big Apple. Close to it, but not really. I don't know, 6 out, Jimmy? 6 out in the AL East?
6 back of Toronto,
Six
and
back.
they're at 31 and 31, 500.
31,
and the whole
30.
division is they're in third place.
Gotcha. And I don't watch the Yankees like Mary did for a couple of years. She watched every game. They've even turned her off. Quick snapshot. Joe, you are an outstanding baseball coach. Need no introduction for your achievements as a coach in baseball at Waterloo. However, I was watching the game yesterday, top of the ninth, trailing 2-1. Ichiro gets on first. Pass ball, heads to second, nobody out. Up comes Bryant, punching Judy Roberts. I'm thinking, well, you got Teixeira after him, and then you got Gardner. You're down 2-1. Roberts is going to lay down a bunt, move Ichiro to third. Oh, no. He swings, pop up the left field, 1 out. Great. Then Teixeira gets up, grounds the second. Ichiro goes to third, 2 outs. And then Gardner plays hard to get at the plate, strikes him out, game over. So, Joe, I'm asking you a point-blank question. Would you have made Roberts bunt him to third with 1 out?
No.
In that situation?
No. I'm not bunting anybody to third with 1 out already.
No, there was nobody out.
Oh, no outs?
No outs. Ichiro on second, nobody out. Roberts at the plate.
Okay,
Punch and Judy. Down 2-1.
And I might have done that. With Roberts, I might have done that. I might have pinched hit for him. I
He's
might
an
have done
excellent
that.
bunter.
I might have done that.
Okay.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
But you got to go back an inning or two before that.
Bases loaded.
When Garner tripled.
Yep.
And they moved the infield in, and Jeter hit a weak ground ball, and Ellsbury took strike 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like in the 7th,
Yep.
I'm thinking.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
you know, they just haven't gelled.
Ugh.
And one of the things they haven't gelled in is defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be reverent, I understand, but you aren't covering much territory from short to second.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not hitting very well when Teixeira is not in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And evidently he's broken down enough where he needs rest.
Mm-hmm.
So they look like they've got a lot of things they need to do. And the people that they brought in, with the exception of Ellsbury and Solartes, really haven't done that much for him.
No. And it's a scary thought, Verk. Where would they be without Tanaka, the outstanding Japanese pitcher? 9-1.
They would have been below 500.
Yeah. A lot.
But I'm with Joe, though.
Yep.
And when in the situation,
Right.
he's on second base. If McCann is on second base, maybe I bunt him over.
Okay.
But with Ichiro, he's going to score on a base hit.
Okay.
He can run. So I'm not going to waste an out when I only got 3 left
Okay.
to move him to third.
Okay.
I'm going to take my chances with the 3 guys coming up.
Interesting, because I almost threw a remote across the room last night. Thank God I didn't. But I said, why don't you bring him to third? But that's why you guys have got the pedigree and the backgrounds. Well, guys, I'm sorry to admit that we are out of time. It's amazing how fast this show goes. Joe, thanks a lot for joining us. We'd love to have you come back down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Verk, always good seeing you. And next time I come to your poker game, I'll try to bring a helmet so I don't damage myself in my head again, okay?
Only recorded injury at a card game in Seneca County.
I have a lot of firsts in my life, Verk, and that's one of the dubious ones. I would expect a plaque coming up Sunday night to be there somewhere,
Well,
with blood coming down off it.
If we had a plaque, there'd have to be a lot of other things on there. So I don't know if we can afford the engraving.
You have to keep inviting them back, though. I would
Oh
assume.
yeah, I'm a fish. Listen, I don't still know some of the card games that we play. Pair of sixes, right, Verk?
Pair of sixes.
I love that. He'll always remember that. Well, folks, we're going to go from these two gentlemen who were sports knowledgeable to a guy that I hired back in the 70s. Dave Barnick comes to the couch next week. The South End Flash. Dave Barnick will join us, and we have lots to talk about with Mr. Barnick. And then, of course, in a couple of weeks, we turn to politics. Talk about oh my God, Steve Churchill and the wonderful, talented, controversial Cindy Lorenzetti. They will both be here at the same time, and thank God they're on the same party. So they'll be here on the 23rd. So those are our next 2 shows scheduled. And we again thank Rod Verkey and Joe Sposato for joining us here on Weber this week. So take care, everybody. You enjoy your week, huh? Have a good time. And again, thanks to these guys. That's a look at Weber this week. My way.
Support great local content like this by becoming a patron of FingerLakes1.com. Visit patreon.com/FL1.
FingerLakes1.com.